Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni muli wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We're coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We're so delighted and so very honored that you're joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show in the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, wherever you find your podcasts. Our guest today is Nick Lund. He is here to celebrate the ultimate biography of Earth. Before we invite Nick into the studio, we want to let you know that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is originally published on April 30th, 2022. And April 30th just happens to be Independent Bookstore Day. I didn't know that until our friend Julie Whitney let me know about it. Julie Whitney is the author of Astra the Lonely Airplane. You've been hearing me tell you about Astra throughout the month of April and in March. Astra is a wonderful book. Julie is an amazing author, and she would love to give one copy of her book away in honor of Independent Bookstore Day. If you would like to win this book to add it to your library, all you need to do is go to readingwithyourkids.com, click on the contact button at the top of the page, and say, I want a copy of Astra. We'll put your name in a hat. We'll draw a winner on May 3rd. So, go to it, readingwithyourkids.com, contact button. Let me know that you would love to win a copy of Astra the Lonely Airplane by Julie Whitney. Joining us right now from the beautiful city of Portland in Maine, one of my favorite places in the world. Our guest today is here to celebrate the ultimate biography of Earth. Please welcome to the show, Nick Lund. Hey, Nick, how are you?
Good morning, Jedley. I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm awesome. I'm really excited to have you on. The ultimate biography of Earth. You didn't have something more challenging to write about?
I just thought I would take on 4.5 billion years. I thought I would just start easy and just do the whole shebang and do 4.5 billion years right off the bat.
That is a feat.
Yeah.
What was who is this book targeted for?
Well, I mean, anyone who doesn't know about 4.5 billion years of Earth's history, for sure, which was for me, and I think a lot of people. I have a 4-year-old, and, history for him is like dinosaurs, and that's it. That's as far back. And dinosaurs are pretty far back. That's a lot to know. But there's a way more before dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are like, there's like more than 4 billion years of history on Earth before dinosaurs. And so what's going on with that? What was alive then? What kind of crazy cool animals were there? So this is targeted for anyone who doesn't know that history and doesn't want to wade through a gigantic set of encyclopedias to get there. It's specifically targeted at sort of grades 5 and up, but truly it's an easy way for anyone to learn about all the history, starting from the formation of the Earth way back in the day through the earliest periods of Earth where it was really not a good place to be. There was not life on Earth. Things were on fire and volcanoes were exploding everywhere, through the very earliest pieces of life, which is like tiny single-celled organisms, creeping around, doing their thing. From those evolving all the way through the, fish and insects and arthropods and amphibians and reptiles and dinosaurs and mammals, all the way up to humans today. So just covering that all quickly and with a sense of enjoyment and fun.
That sounds like an awesome. It sounds like an awesome, fun book to read. I'm imagining myself in 5th or 6th grade, just devouring this.
Yeah.
But it also sounds like it's a really fun resource to have in the house. Maybe a family doesn't want to sit down and read it snuggled up on the couch from cover to cover, but it certainly is something that would be really fun to kind of pull out. Sure. And let's check out 3.5 billion years ago. What was going on in the Earth then?
Yeah, it really is I'm not a scientist. I'm not someone who wants to, bog you down with having to look up all the words. And I wanted this to be a history. You can read it cover to cover. This is told as sort of the setting for the story is the Earth trying to write his own biography. So he's like, look, I've been around for 4.5 billion years. Maybe that's enough. Can we get a book out of that? And he's talking to this guy, this giant pencil man who's going to write his biography. So they're talking to each other through it as they go through. And so it's told as a fun story. It's not a dry, history book with all kinds of science and jargon. It's told as, a life story and the things that evolved. And so you really can sit down and there are jokes in it, and it's enjoyable. And so it's really not a book that you need to, refer to and then ponder over. It's something you can laugh at and look at the great illustrations by Jason Ford, which really bring it all to life in a very colorful and easy way. So it's something that you could sit and read. And I've been sent some pictures of kids reading it already, and they're enjoying it and laughing at it, believe it or not.
Cool. Tell us about the personality of the Earth.
Yeah, well, he's a cool guy. He's a fun guy. He doesn't really understand how cool he is. I think, he's just him. He grew up and when mountain ranges form, it sort of itches on his back. And when life creeps around, it sort of tickles him. He doesn't quite understand that he's the Earth where everything lives and the only place in the entire solar system that has life. And how cool life is. He's just like, this kind of stings. And so he's a really fun guy, and the pencil is sort of like honored to be telling his story, of course, to get the assignment to tell the biography of the Earth, the place that you walk around on all day. Pretty cool assignment. So they have a really fun relationship where they're sort of talking to each other through it and getting through some of the most amazing times in their history, which to Earth was just, another growing pain. But to the pencil and to all of us was, this incredible time in history where all kinds of cool stuff was happening.
Very cool. I'm curious. I grew up hearing about people referring to Mother Earth. Why did you decide to make the Earth a him?
Good question. I wanted to be a little goofier than that. Mother Earth, the way we consider it that way is, it's a little serious, I think. And so I wanted this guy to be a little goofier. Doesn't necessarily be a him or a her. It's sort of just a character, the Earth. But I wanted him to be a little more fun and laid back, I think, than Mother Earth, who's a little serious.
Yeah.
But the character of Earth in this could be any gender, but just a little more fun loving, I think, and jokey than Mother Earth.
I love it. What was the most surprising thing that you discovered in researching and preparing for this book?
Every day I was finding new things. There's so much interesting stuff over the course of Earth's history. I think my favorite stuff to learn about was mammals, was the evolution of mammals. Mammals as opposed, mammals are warm-blooded. We produce milk. We produce live young. We are different than reptiles, the things that dinosaurs, big, scaly, cold-blooded animals. Mammals lived for a long time. We lived alongside the dinosaurs for a long time. But the dinosaur age was not a great, safe place to be a mammal. Mammals were delicious back then, right? We were the things getting eaten all the time. Small, sort of rat-like, mouse-like things most of the time. And they had to be small because if they were any bigger and they were walking around, they would just get eaten by dinosaurs. So for hundreds of millions of years, mammals were kind of, small and scared and wimpy, and we were living underground, and we were developing ways to come out at night where it was safer. There were fewer dinosaurs, and we were like that for a long time, sort of living in the shadow of these big dinosaurs. Then 66 million years ago, this big asteroid hit and changed everything, and the asteroid caused the extinction of the dinosaurs. But mammals, because we were okay at living at night, we were living underground, we survived the asteroid pretty well. All the dinosaurs went extinct fairly quickly, but mammals survived in part because they were sort of good at hiding, good at staying out of sight. And then after the dust settled, mammals sort of walked out of their little burrows and took a look around and said, hey, no dinosaurs. I don't have to be scared anymore. And we evolved into this period of mammals being insane. Mammals evolving into giant, like elephant-headed, giraffe-necked dinosaurs and crazy giant armadillos and all kinds of insane mammals that covered the earth. Giant kangaroos, because we sort of walked out. We didn't need to be afraid of dinosaurs anymore, and we took over the earth. Humans, of course, evolved out of that period as well, and we've taken over the earth in a different way. So I really love learning about that period where mammals came out from the shadow of dinosaurs. Everyone thinks that dinosaurs were the biggest, baddest creatures ever, but mammals were pretty cool for a while there.
Yeah. I'm curious, where did you get, because the idea of looking back 4.5 billion years, it's not like you can go to the library and pick up a book that was written by someone who was back there. How did we get the information that we know about that time?
That's actually one of the other really cool things about doing the research for this book is understanding how scientists and paleontologists and paleobotanists and everyone who studies ancient history, how they do their jobs. You're right. They can't just ask somebody and they can't read a book about it. They have to put together these incredible clues that just like come out of the ground magically. The work that these scientists do is unbelievable in taking, first of all, finding clues, whether it's a rock or a bone that they've dug out, or a microscopic piece of fossilized pollen that they found somewhere, and then connecting those dots to what they know about our current world and what else they know about history, and then making discoveries, and then understanding how life came about way back in the day. It's unbelievable. And if I could turn back my own clock, I probably would have been a paleontologist to go and carve out a bone and then figure out what part of the body this was and what it belonged to, and then it was some new species that may have walked the earth millions of years ago. Really incredible. And every day writing this, I would gain a new appreciation for scientists and the people who are putting these discoveries together.
Yeah. Really,
cool.
It really is fascinating when you can look at something and you really have no idea what it is, and then you start looking for clues, and then from that little teeny weeny hint, this knowledge, it just gets uncovered.
It's amazing. And also sort of reassuring at how often that is revised or changes. There's a lot that we don't know or aren't 100% certain about for, everything in history, because we're making the best guesses we can based on the tiny little bits of information we have. And then sometimes when we find new information or we reinterpret the information we have, our understanding of history changes. And that happens constantly in all the different, aspects of the study of history. And I find that really reassuring. This is not something this is the way it is. We know how it is forever, but it's a constantly evolving field of study and understanding about exactly what happened and how things fit together. Dinosaurs, which we know sort of as much about as a lot of older things, they're constantly changing. There was a new paper that came out last week that provided new information on the Spinosaurus, which was one of the largest carnivores that ever lived, this fish-eating dinosaur. And scientists are constantly sort of debating, did it swim underwater and catch fish, or did it stand on the edge of the water and reach in and catch fish? Now they think its bones were heavy enough, solid enough that it probably swam underwater. But who knows what will happen next time? Who knows how we'll reinterpret it? So all of this history is sort of constantly undergoing this, analyzation or study or reinterpretation to figure out exactly, what happened. It's pretty fascinating.
It's interesting because a few years back I read, after growing up and, referring to dinosaurs as the forefathers of lizards and alligators and iguanas, someone said, no, we think they're birds. We think they evolved into birds. Where are you on that kind of debate?
Yeah, well, definitely. So reptiles as a group existed before dinosaurs. So those things that look like alligators, basically alligators conquered the world before the dinosaurs. So dinosaurs evolved out of them. Turtles sort of went another way. And then definitely a subset of dinosaurs became birds. There's no question about it now, they found. And it's amazing how they put those together. Some folks in Germany at one point found this fossil, this one amazing fossil that they pulled out of the earth, which showed very clearly this was this creature that was a cross between a bird and a dinosaur. It had feathers. They could clearly see the imprint of feathers in the fossil, but it also had it had like a beak, but the beak had reptile teeth in it. You know, modern birds don't have any teeth. This creature had feathers, and it also had a long, like, reptile tail. So people were like, holy moly, this is, you know, a missing link between birds and dinosaurs. And, there are so many similarities between the structure of modern birds and certain dinosaurs back then. Their hips were the same and their bodies were the same. And it makes a lot of sense evolutionarily how dinosaurs said, you know, flying is pretty great. I can be safe up here. I can find prey down here. I can climb trees and fly around. So flying as an evolutionary trait is something that has evolved, you know, many times because it's just a great way to live. And so no doubt we can trace perfectly certain dinosaurs to modern birds. I mean, you could say accurately that birds are dinosaurs. We just call them something else.
Well, you know, I've explored the rainforest down in Central America, and there's some birds down there that certainly remind me of dinosaurs. They're kind of terrifying.
You know, and up here in New England, if you take a good look at a turkey these days, you know, turkeys, you know, we don't think of them as, but if you take a look at a turkey, they have big, powerful claws, and they have, you know, scaly feet, and they look like dinosaurs. That's as close to a dinosaur as we can get right in our backyards.
And they are nasty creatures.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with them. Just like you don't want to mess with a dinosaur. You're like, I get it. You're a dinosaur. I get it. I'll back off.
All right. That's cool. Well, you know, we talk about learning from history. A lot of people, you know, and you talked about this cataclysmic event that caused the dinosaurs to go extinct. Lots and lots of folks are really worried that we're going to experience a man-made cataclysmic event in our future at some point. What can history teach us to help hopefully prevent something like that from happening?
Yeah. Well, a lot of the really interesting learning in this book was about periods of growth in world's history and periods of extinction. Extinctions have happened a lot. You know, the conditions of life on Earth are subject to change for various reasons. Changes in the chemical composition of the air, changes of the temperature, or giant cataclysmic explosions like from an asteroid. Things have happened many times on Earth that have caused life to go extinct. And one of the lessons for modern day is that it can happen. This happens. You know, when we as humans cause a change in the world, that changes in a way that a lot of the animals that have evolved to live here can't live anymore. And so, you know, for anyone who's maybe a skeptic of climate change, you know, climate changes all the time throughout Earth's history, all the time. And when it happens, especially when it happens relatively quickly, like it's happening now, a lot of species die. They have evolved to live in one climate, and when that climate goes away, they can't live there anymore. And so, you know, climate change is not a new thing for the Earth. But it doesn't necessarily mean that everything will go away. I mean, one of the sort of reassuring things, at least in the long term of this book, is that in the long haul, species will be okay. Life on Earth will survive and thrive again once they can adjust to the conditions, or once the problems that we're causing are gone. And so we're not going to have an Earth that has no life on it anymore. And so, like, that's sort of reassuring, because when there's a lot of sort of, it's easy to get very upset about the doom and gloom of present day. But not only can we change things now, there's still time to change things and stop the harm we're causing. But in the future, things will be better. At some future point, things will come back.
Yeah.
So learning about extinctions and learning about those periods has been really interesting. It doesn't always happen. The asteroid that killed the dinosaurs is how a lot of people think of that. It usually doesn't happen that way. It usually happens over a much longer time period. Usually volcanoes are involved, big volcanoes coming up and spewing chemicals in the air, which change the amount of oxygen in the air or carbon dioxide in the air or change other things. But usually they can take millions of years, and it's not often where it's like, an animal will look around and everything's dead. Usually it's a very, slow, long decline. What humans are causing is actually as fast as anything. The rate that we are changing the Earth now is much faster than typical, even in an extinction event. And so this is a very real thing we're causing. But, humans are unbelievable. We really are. We are smarter than any creature that's ever lived. We can do things that no other animal in history can do. And that includes, saving the Earth. That includes not only changing the Earth in a way that harms it, but changing it in a way that helps it and protects it and minimizes our own impacts. We could do that. No other species has ever been able to, but we have an opportunity to do that. Human history is moving so quickly. It's unbelievable how much faster, humans are learning and growing than any species ever. And I think, have gone through a period over the past, couple hundred years, tiny time span, where we caused a lot of impacts. We sort of were blundering around on the Earth, not knowing what we were doing and not even understanding that we could cause, Earth level changes. But now we know that. And once we know that, we have the capacity to stop it, to change it, to fix it. We just got to do it. Yeah. So there's a lot of hope in that.
Well, if those little mouse-type creatures could innovate so that they could live with the dinosaurs, then I think we can probably figure something out, some ways to innovate and continue our species living here on Earth.
I think you're absolutely right, and I know we will.
Yeah. Hey, what should folks listening know about Nick Lund?
I love birds. I'm on Twitter and other social media as the Birdist. I'm a bird watcher. What I want you to know is that you should go out and look at birds. The best way to get involved with the natural world is to go out and see birds. Birds are in your backyard. Birds are in the middle of the ocean. Birds are in the deserts. Birds are everywhere. And if you want to learn about the planet, if you want to learn about the different parts of Earth, you should learn about birds because they will take you to all those parts of the world. That's how I got into writing. That's how I got into loving nature and the Earth. And that's really all you need to know about me.
Yeah. 25 so years ago, my beautiful wife and I moved from the inner city of Boston to the very outskirts of the city of Boston, in a neighborhood called Reedville, and our property borders a bird sanctuary.
Oh, good for you.
And it is such an amazing place, and we're right on the migration route. And in fact, our backyard is a rest stop for certain birds, and there are different times in the spring and the fall where I'll go out in my backyard, and there are literally thousands of birds, and they're talking to each, and they're just kind of chilling, getting gas, whatever they need in our trees. And it is just so loud. Yeah. And it's just amazing. And then if somebody claps or there's a noise and it just goes silent, and then they all take off. And to see thousands of birds take off at the same time, it's like a cloud moving. It's crazy.
It's amazing. And let me tell you, those times are coming. It's almost April right now, and it's going to be spring, and there are billions of individual birds slowly working their way up from the southern U.S. and Central America and South America, and they're coming up through New England, and they're going to Canada, or they're staying in New England. They're all going to their own little houses, their own little apartments somewhere, and it's so much fun because you don't have to do anything. You just go in your backyard, and there are beautiful, colorful, cool, crazy birds coming through. Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah, it really is. And it's the thing that blows me away is these birds are tiny, and their heads are tinier, and that means what's inside their head is even tinier.
Yeah.
But they know they don't have any Jeep. Yeah. Well, maybe they have bird Jeep, but they can get their way from Mexico to Canada, and they come through the same route all the time. There's no, far as I know, there's no signs. And when they make their nest, it's the same. It's like it's
unbelievable.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
They'll often come to the same tree that they found. It'd be like us just flying to the moon, just flying to the moon and finding the exact same crater or whatever every year. It's unbelievable how they do it.
Yeah.
And you're right. They weigh like this, as much as a quarter, and they're flying from continent to continent. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And learning about birds and appreciating them is such a good way to sort of open doors to the rest of nature, because you learn about their migration, magnetic fields and stars, and you learn about the stuff that eats them, mammals and stuff like that. So, man, if I were to tell kids one way to get into nature is to learn about birds.
Yeah. Hey, one last question before we go. What's your favorite bird?
Oh, man. Jedley, the toughest question of all. You're giving me the hardest one. The snowy owl is maybe the most beautiful. Snowy owls live up in the Arctic tundra. They come down, a few of them, to Maine every winter. They hang out, and seeing one of those things, you can't believe you get to share the planet with them. This white owl with yellow eyes, incredible that they get to, that I live near some of them. So I'd say snowy owl, but man, I could make a case for hundreds of other species.
Wow. Well, I was with a friend camping in Baxter State Park. We're standing by a lake late at night. There's nobody else around. And I just heard this swoop over my head. And it was, I don't know if it was a snowy owl, but it was a big creature. And the wings were like enormous. And I was terrified.
It wasn't so long ago that there were birds on Earth that you should be terrified of. They're over the course of Earth's history, there have been birds that, you're just a delicious morsel to them. Watch out.
Well, no one has never referred to me as a delicious morsel.
It's not often you get thought of that way. Yeah.
Hey, Nick, tell everybody where they can go to find out more about you and find out more about the ultimate biography of Earth.
Oh, man, you can find me online at nicholaslund.com. You can go to thebirdist.com. You can go to workman.com or Amazon or any of the places that you buy books to buy the Ultimate Biography of Earth. I hope you do and enjoy it. Awesome. And that's it.
We've had a great time speaking to the author of the Ultimate Biography of Earth, Nick Lund. Hey, Nick, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Linda Wu. She'll be here to celebrate Ava's triumph, her debut picture book. That's the next episode of the podcast. Hey, if you're the author of a fantastic children's book, please be sure to visit readingwithyourkids.com. So many ways that we can help you celebrate your book. You can be a guest here on the podcast and tell thousands of people about your fantastic book in a long-form conversation. It's fun, it's easy, it doesn't cost a thing. Just go to readingwithyourkids.com and click on that Authors Click Here button at the top of the page. Oh, you can also learn how you can submit your book to our Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read panel. And you can find out about our monthly promotion programs. That's all at readingwithyourkids.com and click on that Authors Click Here button. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, I want to start by thanking our guest, Nick Lund. Be sure to check out the Ultimate Biography of Earth. Also want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Skylar Strauss. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.